This is how Putin secretly travels the world, in a $500 million aircraft that stretches more than 55 meters long, and it carries enough range to cross the Atlantic without stopping. It's called the IL-96-300PU, and the PU literally means point of control, because this aircraft is like a flying Kremlin. Inside, you will find a situation room wired with encrypted comms, a gold-plated suite, and defenses similar to those of a fighter jet. And the shocking part is that Putin never flies alone. What does that mean? We will reveal in a moment. Let us first take you inside Putin's Russian Force One, inside the aircraft. When you hear the words Ilyushin IL-96-300PU, it doesn't sound like much. It sounds like just another jet with a long technical name. But don't be fooled. This aircraft is not a normal wide-body airliner you would see flying tourists across the Atlantic. This is Russia's presidential plane, better known as a flying fortress in the sky. Inside, it carries the weight of Russian power everywhere it goes. So let's step through the cabin and see how this airborne Kremlin is built. Start at the front because even before you hit the passenger area, the differences are obvious. A civilian Ilyushin IL-96-300 normally has 2 pilots. This one carries a crew of 4 in the cockpit. The main reason is that survival is the utmost priority here. Every control system is hardened against an electromagnetic pulse, something that would fry electronics on a normal airliner. Here, old-fashioned switches, manual redundancies, and protected avionics are built to keep flying, even if the outside world goes dark in a nuclear scenario. And before these pilots even take their seats, they go through full medical checks every single flight. That's how high the standards are when you are flying the president. Step through the reinforced door, and you will feel like you are not in a plane anymore. It feels like you are in a palace. The corridor is lined with gold trim. Classical designs run along the walls. It's a style closer to the Kremlin halls than to anything in aviation. The choice is a calculated display of authority. You don't just walk into this cabin, you feel like you are entering state power itself. Then comes the private office. World leaders don't always have the luxury of sitting behind a desk in Moscow, so a traveling Kremlin had to be built. This office is lined with bookshelves and fitted with a small conference space. It's used for private talks and sometimes even staged interviews to show Putin in a more casual light. From this room, secure calls can be made anywhere on the globe. And while the furniture may look ornate, behind the panels are encrypted communication systems that let orders flow directly to Moscow's command centers. Further down is a section for staff, advisors, and security. On a regular Ilyushin IL-96-300, this would be rows of economy seating. Here, it is spacious, arranged for aides, journalists, and bodyguards. The cabin crew has their own prep area for meals because, yes, even on a flying war room, dinner service is still expected. And of course, there is a lounge area with sofas, a stocked bar, and space to socialize. But don't imagine it's all fun and cocktails. Every move in this section is watched by security personnel. Even relaxation is carefully managed here. Keep walking, and you hit the real power center, the airborne conference room. This is the beating heart of the Ilyushin IL-96-300PU. A massive oval table sits under glowing lights, surrounded by cream-colored leather chairs. Golden trim runs along its edges. Here, secure cables and antennas route encrypted data into the room. This setup turns it into a situation center where Russia's leadership can command military forces mid-flight. Orders can literally be given from here while cruising at 39,000 feet. Now, behind this room lies the restricted zone. Very little is known about it, because unlike the lounge or corridor, no photos have ever leaked. This is believed to be where the nuclear command systems, the most sensitive communications, and the highest security officers operate. Call it the bunker within the plane. Here you will find servers, hardened electronics, maybe even satellite uplink rooms. None of it is on display, but it's the true reason the plane cost $500 million to build. Without this hidden suite, it's just another VIP jet. And then there are the president's personal quarters. The private suite reportedly features a king-sized bed, polished wood, and heavy soundproofing. Why soundproofing? Because you don't want the leader of the largest country on Earth woken up every time turbulence hits or a staffer slams a door. The bathroom has become infamous. There is a gold-plated sink, gold-plated toilet, all designed to show that nothing here is ordinary. It's over the top, but that's the point. Image is power. Attached to this is something unusual for a jet. There is a private gym, a treadmill, some weights, and a bike all installed so Putin can maintain his cultivated image of strength even on long flights. Think about it. How many presidents have a gym on their plane? That says a lot about how carefully this aircraft was built to match the man who uses it. By this point, you can already see why the cost is so high. Around $500 million went into creating this single aircraft. Its fuselage is 55 meters long, 60 meters wide, and it carries extra fuel tanks to stretch its range far beyond a commercial airliner. In tests, the Ilyushin IL-96-300 flew more than 14,000 kilometers in one trip. That's Moscow to Los Angeles nonstop with fuel to spare. There are even smaller but fascinating tweaks. For example, this version of the Ilyushin IL-96-300PU carries its own stairway stored in the fuselage. Why does that matter? Because in 1959, Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev arrived in the US only to find the airport stairs didn't reach his aircraft door. He had to climb down a fire truck ladder. It was humiliating. The Russians never forgot. From then on, no president would ever risk stepping off an aircraft without proper stairs again. Beyond luxury, safety is also engineered into the frame. This is a 4-engine jet, which already gives it redundancy. But pilots brag it can keep flying even if 2 engines fail. One Russian general even claimed the aircraft could limp nearly 800 kilometers on a single engine. That may sound extreme, but this means the jet will not be lost easily. Inside, there is also a fully equipped medical suite. A doctor travels on board every flight. The suite has resuscitation gear, surgical equipment, and supplies for emergencies ranging from a mild illness to a heart attack. In theory, even emergency surgery could be performed mid-flight. Air Force One has a similar setup, complete with blood reserves matching the president's type. The Ilyushin IL-96-300PU mirrors this. This is because they believe the leader cannot be vulnerable, even in the air. Now, about that special coating. Russian sources claim the jet is covered in radar-absorbing material to reduce its visibility. Let's be blunt, that's fantasy. A jet, which is 55 meters long with 4 big engines, will light up any radar screen like a Christmas tree. Paint won't change that. What actually protects it are electronic countermeasures and decoys, not a magic coat of paint. Still, the claim shows how much mystery surrounds this aircraft, and how the Kremlin likes to project an image of stealth even when it's not realistic. Every feature inside this aircraft balances 3 things: luxury, security, and control. From the corridor lined in gold, to the hidden communication rooms, to the emergency medical unit, every square meter is designed to keep the president alive and in command, no matter where in the world he is flying. After walking through the gold corridors, the private gym, and the airborne bedroom, you might think the Ilyushin IL-96-300PU is just a flying palace, but the truth is that the real secrets are not in the chandeliers or the bathrooms. The real secrets are hidden in the systems that protect this jet when it's a target. And make no mistake, this aircraft is always a target. That's why its countermeasures are so extreme that they rival frontline military aircraft. The crazy countermeasures. At the heart of it is a system called President S. It sounds like a marketing name for an expensive gadget, but this is no toy. This defense suite was originally designed for helicopters and attack aircraft like the Sukhoi Su-25. The fact that it's installed on a passenger airliner shows how far the Kremlin was willing to go. This setup gives the aircraft eyes in every direction, scanning the skies for incoming threats 24 hours a day. Missiles don't get a chance to sneak up on it. The first layer is the L-150 radar warning receiver. Think of it as an electronic ear tuned to every radar beam in the sky. If a surface-to-air missile system lights up the aircraft with targeting radar, the L-150 knows instantly. Alongside that are ultraviolet and laser sensors mounted around the fuselage. These detect the glow of an infrared missile launch or a laser guidance lock. Together, they feed information into a central computer that constantly decides what's a threat, how close it is, and what's the right move to stop it. Once a danger is confirmed, the Ilyushin IL-96-300PU fights back. Against radar-guided weapons, it can unleash active jamming, blasting the attacker's radar with noise, so the missile loses its lock. Against infrared missiles, the kind that chase heat from engines, the plane switches to DIRCM, or directed infrared countermeasures. These are laser turrets that literally blind a missile's seeker head by dazzling it with focused energy. There are also flares, which are super hot magnesium bursts shot from the belly. These make the heat-seeking missile think it's chasing a fireball instead of 4 Rolls-Royce-sized engines. And then there is the strangest piece of gear, the towed decoy. Imagine a pod trailing behind the jet by a long cable, about 150 meters back. It reflects radar waves and makes itself look juicier than the real aircraft. If a missile is stubborn, the decoy becomes the sacrificial lamb. For a head-of-state flight, that could mean the difference between life and death. Now, all this sounds like science fiction, but it's confirmed by aviation sources and defense reports. The presence of laser warning domes and unusual sensor mounts on photos of the presidential fleet back it up. For a civilian-looking airliner to carry this much military tech is rare, even by superpower standards. Of course, there are rumors that go even further. Stories dating back to the Yeltsin years claim the presidential aircraft has an escape pod, or at least an emergency parachute system for the leader. No proof has ever surfaced, and many experts dismiss it as Soviet imagination. But the fact that the rumor refuses to die shows how much mystery still surrounds this plane. Protection isn't just about stopping missiles, though. Communication is part of the defense. Every piece of comms gear on the Ilyushin IL-96-300PU has at least one backup, and some have two or three. That means if one radio is fried, another takes over. If a satellite link is jammed, a secondary channel kicks in. From the outside, you can actually see a giveaway: the long fairing running down the spine of the jet. That's a high-power satellite communication antenna, built to keep the plane connected even when it's thousands of kilometers from Moscow. And don't forget, the jet itself isn't the only defense. Putin travels with a fleet. He never travels alone. There are 4 of these presidential Ilyushins, and they often take off together. Nobody watching from the ground knows which one carries the president until the moment it lands. It's a deliberate misdirection. On top of that, fighters sometimes tag along. Russian sources bragged once about 68 escorts, which is pure fantasy. In reality, it's usually just a pair or two. But still, that means a presidential jet flying across the country is never just one lonely dot on a radar screen. Even in foreign skies, the escorts show up. On his trip to Alaska, US F-35s flew alongside as part of the protocol. Think about that. American stealth fighters guarding a Russian president's jet, while the real one hid among decoys. That is Cold War theater brought back to life. So when you look past the chandeliers and the gold sinks, this is what the Ilyushin IL-96-300PU is really about. The recent trip. After hearing about all those lasers, decoys, and backup systems, you would think the Ilyushin IL-96-300PU was unstoppable. But the thing is, no matter how much technology you pack into one jet, the real trick is how you use it. And Putin proved that on his recent trip to Alaska, where the operation looked more like a military exercise than a diplomatic flight. On that Thursday, people in Anchorage witnessed something they hadn't seen since the Cold War. Not one, not two, but 3 presidential Ilyushins crossing the Pacific. One, registered as RA96018, parked at Ted Stevens International Airport like it was just another long-haul arrival. The other 2 turned back west within hours, heading home to Russia. Those were deliberate decoys. Nobody could say with certainty which jet carried the president until the engines shut down and the stairs rolled up. That's how carefully choreographed this was, and there is a reason for that. Russia learned the hard way decades ago that one backup is never enough. There is even a famous story that back in the 1970s, Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev tried to impress Richard Nixon with his brand new Ilyushin IL-62. The first jet failed to start. They switched to the backup, and that one broke down too. It was a total embarrassment. From then on, the rule was written in stone that always bring at least 2 spares for a head-of-state flight. That policy is still alive today, and Alaska just proved it. But the drama didn't stop with the passenger jets. A massive Ilyushin IL-76 cargo plane appeared on approach to Anchorage, only to suddenly abort its landing and vanish from civilian radar. Minutes later, it popped up again at a nearby Air Force base. That aircraft isn't for show. The IL-76 is a workhorse built for hauling armored vehicles, mobile security gear, and whatever equipment a presidential visit demands. In other words, it was the muscle behind the glittering Ilyushin IL-96-300PU parked on the civilian tarmac. Without it, the trip couldn't happen safely. And just to make the message even clearer, another transport touched down before the president's arrival, unloading security staff. Anchorage wasn't just hosting one jet, it was handling an entire moving fortress with layers of protection. Putin doesn't travel light, and he certainly doesn't travel alone. Every arrival is a convoy in the sky. Now think about the symbolism here. Alaska was once Russian territory, sold to the United States in the 19th century. During the Cold War, it was a front line, bristling with radar stations and bomber patrols. For a Russian presidential aircraft to land there in 2025, at a time when tensions over Ukraine are headline news, that was a statement, a reminder of history and a display of presence on American soil. For aviation watchers, though, the highlight was not politics, but the aircraft itself. The Ilyushin IL-96-300PU is part of a dying breed. Only 18 of the Ilyushin 96 series remain in service worldwide, with 11 of them tied directly to the Russian government. It was designed in the twilight of the Soviet Union as Moscow's answer to Airbus and Boeing, an ambitious 4-engine widebody meant to compete on the global stage. The dream fizzled. Western twin-engine jets outperformed it, and orders dried up. But here, in Anchorage, spotters got a glimpse of a Cold War relic still very much alive. What makes it even more fascinating is how rare the sight has become. In today's skies, long-haul traffic is dominated by efficient 2-engine giants like the Boeing 787 or Airbus A350. Seeing a quad-engine Russian jet touch down in North America feels like stepping back to the 1980s. And that's the point. When Putin travels, the trip is never simple. It's a layered performance of strength, secrecy, and symbolism. Multiple identical jets lift off together. Some peel away, heavy transports slip into military bases, fighters hover nearby. By the time the real president steps onto foreign soil, he has already delivered the message that Russia doesn't just send a leader, it sends an entire operation. What do you think of this aircraft? Should Russia exchange it for a newer model? Share your opinions with us in the comments below. And before you go, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss the latest aviation updates. We will keep you in the loop. Goodbye for now.